Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the bell.
Yo, be a father. If not, why bother, son? A boy can make them, but a man can raise one. Be a father to your child. Be a father to your child.
Are you already recording? Nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we can jump right in, man.
Yeah, so
Jump right into this fatherhood business.
I'm not even gonna ask you how you are because I could give a fuck right now. I'm
All right.
Damn,
You're on a mission.
yeah,
fuck,
son.
bro?
Word up, son.
You're on a mission.
Nah, so this probably drops around the holidays, maybe just after holidays, Christmas in particular. So it's probably opportune what I'm about to say. So I was having a dialogue with a few of my friends. We had like a Friendsgiving is what we had. So we had it like at the end of November.
Uh-huh.
And they're asking me like, about holiday pictures. We somehow get into the conversation of holiday pictures of our kids and whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really fuck with that too much. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I find like it's imposing on people. Like I don't have an issue receiving them. Perfectly fine with them. We kind of we have a little place where we put them, and then after the season we take them down. We put them in a box somewhere.
Yeah.
But me personally, I don't do them. I don't take those pictures in order to distribute them to a variety of people. Like I don't have like a list of people that I mail them to. But a lot of people do, and people are like, why don't you do that? That's why you're not like in the spirit. And I'm like, nah, I just don't feel like I need to send like for instance, if I sent y'all my kids' pictures every fucking year, what are you gonna do with them? You may put them up somewhere for a little bit, and then my expectation is you toss them. But a lot of people,
I throw all cards away pretty much.
Yeah, you talking about? My bad. I was lost in translation real quick. So you're talking about
ahead,
taking
boys.
holiday pictures to send it to people, right? To friends.
Yeah, of your
I think
kids.
that's stupid. I've always hated when people, especially people that are not my family, and sometimes even my family,
Right.
when they send me pictures of their family and their kids for the holidays, like, what the fuck do you want me? And then I feel guilty that if I throw it away, you get some bad juju on you.
Yes, that's what we were talking about. We were like I wouldn't be upset if somebody threw it out, but they was like, nah, I would never throw it out because that's just like voodoo, bad luck type shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, everybody feels the same fucking way because when I get
So
them, I feel terrible.
Well,
But-
see, I got a kind of a different take on it. Like when I used to, before I had a kid, before I had a family, I used to, and I would get them from friends who already were, knee deep in familyhood.
Mm-hmm.
I used to, I don't want to say clown or joke, but it just seemed kind of funny to me. Like, oh, this is like you went and took pictures to do this, and it was just, I didn't really know what to make of it. Fast forward. Nah, because I throw everything away. That's just my MO anyway. Is just I don't really like to hold on to too much.
Throw away K.
Yeah. So then fast forward, now I have a family, and then I found ourselves making those cards and sending them out on the holidays.
Yeah.
Now I'd say maybe the difference for us is that we don't go and take a picture necessarily for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go mining through our pictures to see if there's anything cool that we have, and then send them out. And it's really more so because we know that our immediate friends and family who maybe don't, like, we're not on social media, we're not on any of that stuff,
Right.
so it's not like they're seeing pictures of our son unless we send it to them. So it's more so like, that's our form of social media, a check-in for them to see what our son looks like, and just see a snapshot of the family, because through the rest of the year they're not seeing anything.
I think you said something important though. It's friends and immediate friends and family, right? So that's the difference there. There's people that send it to, like, I guess they think everybody's an immediate friend. So I think sending it to family or people that actually care about your child, like family, like there's friends that do that. Some of your friends will be like uncles or whatever to your kids.
For sure.
That's different. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the people who send it to, like, bro, I just hung out with you at Art Basel last year and you sent me a picture of your kid.
Right.
And also the other thing is, and I can understand maybe not for the older family members, there's nothing wrong with sending an email, bro, or a picture via text. Like, that's what I do. I have a group text with family, and even my goddaughters. Even sometimes I'll send it to my friends if I really want to send them a picture of my daughter, and I just keep them updated that way. And even then, I'm sometimes saying, man, I must be annoying because I'm that annoying person always sending pictures of my kid.
Right.
So I don't know. The actual physical picture, I think you gotta like take a step back and say who really wants this.
So all that said, we're gonna go take our family picture with Santa on Thursday.
Are you?
Yeah, we're not doing a package, and we're doing like the digital shit for ourselves. But yeah, yo, that shit gets tiring.
Yeah,
just do the digital, like just Photoshop Santa Claus in the picture, and you're good.
Now, do you have so Manny, for your kids, have you done any explanation in terms of Christmas versus Hanukkah versus Kwanzaa, or any of those, just kind of the whole holiday season?
Damn, that's really fucked up. No, I haven't.
And the Santa Claus thing, I'd like to see you guys take on Santa Claus.
So wait, let me get through the different holidays first, because I thought that's where you were going. I thought it was about the Santa Claus thing. So just by nature of the public school system, there is a significant amount of Judaism that is, talked about, and so they understand to an extent Hanukkah. To be honest with you, I'm approaching 40 years of age. I'm still not all the way sure about, the everything that there is to be about, Hanukkah. The way obviously I know.
I just knew they got presents every day, and I was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have said God damn. That's blasphemous.
But like Kwanzaa and the rest of the lesser knowns, I guess, and not that Kwanzaa is, but it Hanukkah and Christmas are the big juggernauts.
Right.
I've never had that conversation, so I'm gonna poll my oldest to see if she even knows, because that's an interesting thing to talk about. How about yourself?
Yeah, we've talked about it, and in his schools they've brought up, I guess, all kind of the three major known ones, so Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of refer to it all as the holiday season at the end of the day. But like, we have a Christmas tree and all that good stuff, but it's more so really just for the festive nature of it, not necessarily the context of it.
Mm-hmm.
If you hear a child crying in the background, that's my daughter.
That's baby EFN.
Yeah, my girl's like, maybe trying to put her to sleep now. Hey, but on this subject, I am the Christmas guy. Like, I like Christmas. Like, I really enjoy it. And this will segue into the Santa Claus thing that I want you guys to give input. I felt that there was a lot of positivity that came out of me believing in Santa Claus when I was young. And the festiveness and the decorations, it always, it has a real warm place in my memories, and makes me think of even, bad times in my life, but that was always a good time. That was always when I felt good and I felt happy. And then believing in Santa Claus, I felt like I don't think it was a negative thing. I felt like, there was a point where, I phased out and I learned that he wasn't real, and it was like, cool. But I felt like it was a part of it helped in creativity in some weird way, and I was always trying to capture pictures of him, leave the cookies and all this. And then I have family members or even friends when we would stay at friends' house that would do these elaborate things to make us even, like, if we, believe in Santa Claus, like elaborate. Like, I had this one friend that we stayed at his house, and they had a little paper, so they had a little money to, a little budget to make Santa real. And they literally put footsteps on the roof coming down, Santa footsteps, reindeer footsteps. Then they had hay for the reindeer to eat, and then around the hay they had shit. Like the reindeers were shitting. Right. Then Santa left this like scroll letter to us, like an old, like old English handwriting, and then the tree was nice when we went to sleep, but it was like this crazy like glitter and like and it was like insane to me.
It's the magic. It's like forget what he looks like and forget all that stuff for a minute. It's more about the magical nature of this. Like when you're a kid, it's like you want to believe that there's something
innocent,
extra.
man.
Yeah.
That's what I think sometimes people are losing idea. Like it's innocent, it's magic. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with kids believing in magic. Like I think the problem is when adults forget about magic. Like that's when we start.
You sound like Peter Pan right now.
It's true. I believe that. I understand that concept because.
Well, we get so pessimistic, and
like come on, man. Like what kind of fun is life if you're not a child at heart? And I think if you don't get some of these things that I'm talking about, I mean, I'm sure there's other things that can replace it, but maybe for us in the Western world, it's more Christmas and Santa Claus. If you don't have that, I think in your childhood, then you're gonna lose that spark quicker, and and life to me is duller in that sense. You're not.
I get it. I used to be more, before I had my kid, more kind of just nonchalant about the holidays, and it was not that, lost the magic feeling, you know what I mean? That kid feeling. But now seeing him react to just the anticipation of, of the holidays and seeing the lights and thinking about these magical things happening, that then it's like, okay, this is cool. I mean, look, at the end of the day, whenever he's told or whenever he grows to a certain point and he knows that, there is no person, Santa, that kind of stuff, then I'm sure he'll be,
careful,
sure.
Man, your walls are thin, I think, over there.
I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure he'll be fine with it,
Yeah, dude, I don't remember having any kind of breakdown. I mean, I'm sure maybe someone could tell me I did, but I don't remember.
I mean, he asked me the other day, and I kind of didn't know what to say because there's the the hard line in me that's like, man, there's no Santa, know. But then because he goes, yeah, this kid at school the other day, he was saying that Santa Claus isn't real. It's just all parents do is they go and buy cheap toys and wrap them up. He's like, is that true? I said, well, I just kind of put it back on him. I said, what do you think? And he goes, I think Santa's real. I said, well, there you go.
Sorry, man, but what makes it even crazier for Latinos, I think, is Reyes Magos, that we have that other weird holiday that I was always super confused as a kid why I'm celebrating this. I mean, I understood it, the nativity, the kings they came to see, but I'm like, this is after Christmas, man. Like these guys are late to the party. And then in Latin culture, we tend to celebrate the 24th, at least the adults did. Like I liked it because we did the 24th celebration, and at midnight they would let us open one gift, and that was from the family, and then we go to sleep, and then the morning is Western culture, like American, like, oh, it's American Christmas, which was the kids favored more. And I think all of that helped the transition of eventually knowing that all of this stuff came from the parents, but yeah, man, I don't know, man. I think all that stuff is special, man. If you can do it with your family.
I feel like a big asshole because I've been pushing my wife to just tell them already, like my 5-year-old. Because sometimes I feel like, damn, we're just lying to these fucking kids, bro. Like, just tell them the truth. But she said
later on.
No, but she said exactly what you said, and now that you're saying it, E, I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot more sense because the magic behind it is something that she wants to preserve as much as possible, and there's no harm in it.
And imagine it becomes tradition that they will want to instill the same feeling of family and those good feelings and good times with their family. And that's what I think ultimately is the positive side of it. I'm telling you, like, nobody would ever expect me. Like, I'm like not like, I know there's people that don't think that I'm like some Christmas or like, even from Halloween, I'm already hyped. Like, but see, it goes back to even like school stuff. Like, you already know the holidays come in, you're getting off of school. Then the Halloween cartoons are like a lead up to Christmas in the end, you know what I'm saying? And so you're hyped. So it becomes like the whole season type of thing. And me as an adult, even before my baby, I wouldn't do a lot, but I would do something in the crib to kind of like have some kind of, festive feeling in the home. And now with my daughter, I want to do it even more,
Boom. All right. Well, you know what? So we're going to have another guest today. Got Chris Morrow who runs Loudspeakers Network, and he's a father. So let's call him up, and I think
what his holidays are like.
Yeah. I think the Santa Claus question is a good place to start.
Yeah.
You'd be like, fuck Santa Claus.
Hey, Chris.
What's up, man?
We got Chris Morrow, the leader. Is it CEO, Chris, of Loudspeakers? Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or AKA the Podfather, right?
Yeah. I'm trying not to use that because I heard that's actually Bill Simmons said it first. I'm still looking for something original. But,
okay. All right. All good.
Well, it's okay.
So,
it's okay if other people call you that.
Right.
Right. I got no choice.
All right. So for those who don't know, Loudspeakers Network, it's I don't know, I liken it to like the Def Jam of podcast networks. Got a lot of great shows, and including, kind of came into the game with the Combat Jack show. So rest in peace, Combat Jack, for sure.
Yeah.
So Chris, Santa Claus, yes or no for your kids?
Definitely not. Not even.
I kind of saw that coming.
So wait, so what happens? Because your daughters, they're seeing it everywhere. How do they, associate or disassociate?
It's literally never been a conversation in our house, to be honest with you. I guess. I don't know if my daughters do see it everywhere. I got to be honest. We don't have cable, so they don't watch any TV. I guess they see it around a little bit, but like we're in New York City. They're not like going to malls where there's tenants and stuff. So I think they're aware of it, but it's just nothing we've ever pushed. And if there was even a convo about it, I can't remember, to be perfectly honest.
So, Chris, just to get a better idea of your household, so it's you, your wife, and your two daughters, right?
That's it. Yep.
Okay, and then, so just from listening to other podcasts that you're associated with, so your wife is Asian and you're Jewish, correct?
Yeah, I'm half Irish, half Jewish. So
okay.
I was raised. We definitely had Christmas and Hanukkah in my house growing up. My mother's Jewish, but ironically, she's the one who kind of pushed Christmas the hardest. You can read whatever you want into that. So we definitely did both growing up. And my wife her family's from Taiwan, but she was raised in Amherst, Massachusetts. And they really, I think they celebrated it just because it was a day off, but there was very little pushing it. So I've never been a big Christmas fan, if I'm being honest. I'm not sure why. So it was never anything that we kind of were bringing a lot of steam with. So if the kids had picked up on it, maybe we would have indulged it, but it was just never anything that I think meant a whole lot to us.
Is there anything holiday season wise on from your wife's side of the family that, aside from, kind of knowing about Christmas or not really celebrating it, but just acknowledging it being here? Is there anything else that they've celebrated in the past?
Yeah, we do.
Your family does?
Do a Chinese. Yeah, we do a Chinese New Year celebration. I guess in February. So
okay.
Again, it's probably like technically not the correct version. We don't go all out, but we usually have a handful of people over. We do Christmas. We're buying a tree. We did the Hanukkah candles tonight. I barely know the little song you're supposed to sing, but we kind of give it a shot. And
right.
It seems to work. I feel there are a lot more. It doesn't feel different than what I feel like people we know are doing, whereas when I grew up, it was very much kind of cut and dry. You either did, Christmas hard or Hanukkah hard. So we're kind of mixing it up and splitting the differences, I guess.
How do you go about raising your daughters in, I guess, for lack of a better word, a multicultural household? And we were talking about this on some earlier episodes, just about, I was having some conversations with my son about race and ethnicity, and kind of talking about those explanations and just kind of what they can understand and not understand at any given point in their, depending on how old they are. I don't know what's the dynamics in your house with, between your wife and you, and how you raise your girls.
It's interesting. I was actually thinking about this the other day. We don't really discuss it that much. It doesn't really come up. Our kids go to school in Brooklyn. They go to a public school. The majority, it feels like, of their school is kids who are kind of half Indian, half black, half Asian, half like. I don't think they think twice about it, to be perfectly honest with you. And one thing I've noticed is I've never heard them refer to somebody as black or white before. Like if there's a kid in their class, I don't say like, oh, I don't know her, what she look like. She'll say, oh, they have blonde hair and kind of light skin, or oh, she has dark curly hair and like, coffee colored skin. They don't. I think it's different. And again, this is Brooklyn, 2018. I'm not saying that the entire country is like that, but it's a little bit of a shift, and it's definitely a lot different how I grew up, where everything was very much like black, white, Asian. Like you went out of, or at least it seemed like a lot of people, like that was the first thing they say to kind of describe somebody. And I can even remember, I think when my wife was pregnant, one of my Irish uncles was talking to me like, "Are you worried about having a biracial kid?" And I was like, I don't think it's a big deal in New York. I grew up in Philadelphia. He's in Allentown, PA. So maybe now, ironically, now his daughter married a black guy, and they have biracial kids. So that's something he's got to figure out. But I was like, I don't think it's a big deal. Like, I really don't. And maybe we're being naive. And I've even talked to my wife, and like, I'm sure at some point down the road it'll become an issue. But for whatever reason, it's just not something that they seem interested in talking about, to be honest.
How old are your daughters, Chris?
My eldest is 11 and my youngest is 9.
Okay, so I guess old enough to likely have experienced something around that. I think at this age.
They had to have, right?
Yeah, I think. Yeah,
but I keep kind of expecting it to become something, and I kind of like poke around a little bit, and nothing. Dope. It is dope. I sometimes I worry if I talk about it, I don't want to paint the picture like this isn't a big issue for a lot of kids in a lot of different places, but in this one little sliver of Brooklyn, it's cool. And I know even within Brooklyn, that's not necessarily the case because,
there's definitely parts of Brooklyn.
Yeah, no, we had our oldest daughter in a private school for the first 2 years, and I didn't like the energy, and we pulled her out. And actually, I bumped into a woman at a function that her current school had, and we were talking, and she turned out to be a teacher at the private school my daughter used to go to. And I was like, so you send your kid here? She's African American. She was like, yeah, I wouldn't let my kid be a black kid in that school. No way. I wouldn't want him growing up with that energy around him. And I was like, all right. So I wasn't imagining stuff, So even in a space as small as Brooklyn, I'm not saying that it's like, oh, everything's changed, it's post-racial, but in our little, corner of the world, it doesn't seem to have become a big issue yet.
You're not worried that the further away you get from Brooklyn, New York, that atmosphere changes? Huh?
Yeah. No, my wife, that's one of the reasons my wife won't leave. Sometimes I'll float, hey, let's think about going somewhere. Because, New York is tiring and it's expensive. And, I could sometimes even play with the idea of moving back to Philadelphia. And she won't even entertain it. She's like, no, this is where it's at. And I think that's a big part of that.
I'll tell you, like, here in Miami, I have friends that, or just people in general, we're very comfortable being Latino here. And it's like a banana republic, practically in Cuba. And you just go, a few miles up North Florida, and the environment changes completely. And there's people who will live their entire lives in Miami and then just take a trip to Orlando and just go a little bit outside of Orlando. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, we got problems here. You know?
Cold water splash in your face, right?
Yeah. They'll call you all kinds of shit.
It's funny because we were in Miami like 3 weeks ago, just my wife and I, and we were looking around. We were like, I think we could do Miami, you know? But we were like, I don't think, like you said, I don't think we could do 20 minutes outside of Miami. But Miami itself, the energy felt good.
Yeah, that's why they're trying to split the state. You know, they would want to.
Yeah.
How was that taking a trip without the kids?
That's fine. We travel all the time without the kids, and we're fortunate because my parents are in Philly, and they're like super engaged grandparents. So
Okay.
our biggest issue is kind of keeping them at arm's length. Sometimes, if they had it their way, they'd be here every weekend watching my kids for me. So from an early age, we've always tried to do a bit of traveling on our own. And, you know, the kids are used to staying with my parents at this point. And then on the other side of the coin, every summer, we take a trip to Taiwan to visit my wife's parents. So, you know, we have some like pretty intense experiences, you know, doing that sort of trip with the kids too. And that's like a 16 or 17 hour plane ride. And
Yeah.
our family's like a layup. We don't even think about it. And I know for a lot of people, the idea of taking like a 16-hour plane ride with your kids would scare the shit out of you. But we're so used to it at this point. We don't even think about it.
How is that when you visit Taiwan, you being an American white guy married to an Asian lady?
Yeah.
What's that like over there?
That's a little bit different. I mean, I think that's almost like the experience some people might think we would have in America, because in Taiwan, you know, to generalize, like I think this is true of a lot of Chinese culture, kind of even outside of China. If they want to look at you, they don't try to be subtle. So, you know, we'll have kind of people stop us on the street and ask to take pictures of our kids, or, you know, people just kind of like openly walk up to me and kind of like stare at me. And it's a little strange. I mean, I'm used to it now. It's also, to be honest, like my kids have the quote unquote look that's like very popular in Asia right now in a lot of places, because it's kind of Asian, but it's kind of white, and, you know, you can make what you want out of that. But so if anything, it's like letting my kids not get too gassed up, because in Taiwan, like the first thing everyone says to them is like, "Oh my God, you guys are so beautiful. Can we take a picture?" or something like that. So if anything, it's trying to, you know, like relax, you know, like I don't want you to start thinking. I'm not sure what I don't want them to think, but it seems like a little bit much, and they kind of back up from it, if anything, because they're kind of quiet kids. So I think just the idea of people coming up to them sometimes is a little bit much.
That's wild.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah, that is wild. Do you?
But it's cool. I mean, it's not negative.
Do you?
I could think of way worse situations that I've been through.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I did hear in the Brilliant Idiots podcast the other day when you said that you were in Taiwan with your daughters, and some dudes were looking at you kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually had it happen in New York City too. And again, it was like a Chinese guy just kind of like stopped on the sidewalk and us on the sidewalk. He did that thing where he just like took a long look at me and took a long look at the kids, and then back at me and back at the kids. And I was just like, all right, man, like just ask the question, like whatever. You know.
Did he reach for his phone, like call 911? Like, I'm not sure this is his kids.
Nah, he was cool. I'm not sure if he even spoke that much English, but I mean, you know, like that's the thing that goes on, because I see people do it, especially when you're talking about like biracial kids. Like for whatever reason, like people just kind of have this tendency to try to do the math in their minds. You know, like like this kid matched with this parent, and you can just kind of see people doing it. But I know that I do it, if I'm being honest. Sometimes too, I just, for whatever reason, it just seems to be something that people want to do. So I don't.
I mean, it's pretty natural,
it's
even with the parents that are the same race or whatever. People are always like trying to see what traits of the parents, you know, are in the kids.
Right. And there's just something about it when it's perceived as different that you know, it makes people kind of do like an extra pause, and maybe they're not being subtle. And, you know, sometimes I had one time I was like out on Fire Island at some beach, and this woman, she's probably a little drunk, like came up to me and was like, "Oh my God, your daughter is so beautiful. Where'd you get her?"
Oh,
Oh,
shit.
I was like, her mother? And then like,
should have fucked their
kinda
heads up and been
like
like Amazon.
right.
I got Prime.
Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not really insulted. Like, it is what it is.
That's damn.
It's easy for me, man. I'm a white guy. You know, it's like I'm not gonna cry over like a couple random weird encounters. I think it's probably tougher for my wife, just cause, you know, I think when she's with the kids, she's just like an Asian woman with two kids and whatever, and the kids are seen as Asian, and when I'm with them, they're white kids, so it's probably easier, you know.
Right.
I have an easier path with all that sort of stuff.
Are your daughters into music at all?
No, that was funny. My 9-year-old came to me tonight and was like, "What's the matter with Tekashi 6ix9ine?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Why are you asking?" She was like, "Oh, I just heard some people talking about it at school today." And I was like, "All right." I was like, "Yeah, he's in some trouble. I don't know how it's going to turn out for him." But I was like, "Oh man,
It's not very good look.
where'd that come from?"
Are you guys monitoring kind of what they listen to and kind of curating what they can and can't listen to? We've been having these discussions, and we usually ask people kind of, because I think all of us are a little bit scratching our heads, because we, especially when it comes to hip hop,
Right?
yeah, there's things that we want to, I want my son to hear, and I'll start putting it on the car, and I'll forget that they're dropping all kinds of stuff in it. And I'm like, oh shit, I got to turn this off right now. But then I don't necessarily want to, because he's liking it,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the content, I'm like, I don't want you to think that that's a normal way for guys to talk to you. So, I mean, what we did is, when my kids were little, I realized, I mean, I'm obsessed with music. Like, everything was music with me. So that was something, I knew that I wanted my kids to be passionate about too. But I noticed when I try to play them music, they keep asking me to like just show them the video on YouTube.
Mm.
So I was like, I'm done with this. So we basically, we still have laptops, but before I was playing, the stereo was hooked up to either the computer or a phone. So I used to, I collected records back in the day. I'd like put them in storage probably 10 years ago. So I pulled out all my records. I bought some new ones. I went and got like a refurbished, turntable and receiver from the 70s at a shop I found in Philly. And pretty much like 90% of the stuff that they listen to is just the stuff that I have on vinyl. So
that's dope.
they're listening to really good jazz and really good reggae and really good soul and really good rock. And like the music that they've been exposed to is like, honestly, it's like the best case scenario, just like to me at least. Mm-hmm. So if anything, I feel like a little guilty that, they're not exposed to nearly as much contemporary stuff as I was at that age. Because, by the time I was 11, I was definitely starting to like form the stuff that I was into. So I'm now being like, all right, maybe I went too far. I'm playing them, the classics. I got to let them kind of develop their own thing. But I'm noticing like when we drive, I usually keep it on Power 105 in New York. And like, they like Juice WRLD, they like Lucid Dreams. They pretend they don't like Drake, but they clearly both have a crush on Drake. Like, they're starting to develop it. Well, they'll be like, who's Cardi B? And they hear stuff at school. Like, at their school, they play, like, contemporary stuff during lunch, in the cafeteria. So they're definitely, like, picking up their own thing. But, yeah, it's a struggle because, again, the content, some of it's pretty rough when you're listening to it through a parent's ears, for sure.
You mentioned earlier they gravitate toward video, or they ask you, to show them the YouTube video of whatever music they might be curious about. How, you being very much in the audio space, and I know, video is a part of the podcast world, but it's still, predominantly audio centric. How do you convey, or how do they understand what it is that you do for a living? Just because it's, the format is something that they don't necessarily gravitate toward.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like they're definitely interested in what a podcast is and who I work with. And I noticed them asking questions, really maybe over the last year, like, who's this person? And, do you know this artist or that artist? I think they're starting to understand what a podcast is. We actually were up in Boston for Thanksgiving, and on the ride back, I was like, let me just try to find you guys a kids podcast because we're tired of listening to like whatever music I had on my phone. And we found like some, it was like a sci-fi mystery for 11-year-olds, and they were obsessed with it. Like they're asking to listen to it again. So I think they're starting to like understand what that sort of podcast is. Like I wouldn't let them within a million miles of the shows we do. And even when like I'm listening to something on my laptop and one of them walks in the room, like I'm getting mute as quickly as possible. So I'm like, I don't want you guys listening to this shit. I'm sure they've probably started looking it up on their own just because they're curious, but I'll let them do that. It is funny though, because I had a conversation with someone earlier today, and I think in general, there's about to be like a major shift across the space, because if you think about it, right, like to broadcast on terrestrial radio, there's so many restrictions and so many rules, and you can't say this before, 11 p.m. and this has to meet community standards. And in theory, it's all about protecting kids, right? Protecting kids from these influences. You couldn't pay my kids to find a radio station. They don't know how to find a radio station, right? By asking them to find a podcast, they know exactly how to find that app on my phone, right? They know their way around a phone. They don't know their way around a dashboard or, a tuner. So my thing is like, how is there going to be this system in place where one aspect is so highly regulated, and then on the other one you're going to say whatever the hell you want, right? Like at some point it's going to swing. So that was something I was talking about with somebody today, and if you're going to base this on the idea that you're protecting kids with terrestrial radio, like that just can't stand up that much longer. And I don't want it to happen. Don't get me wrong,
that'll change the landscape.
But
I see it's happening.
We were talking about this in our last podcast. You might have heard Mark Benioff from Salesforce talk about like regulating big tech, and and for all intents and purposes, podcasting you can call, I always laugh when I say it's like a new age medium, even though it's been around for a long time. Yeah. It's kind of coming into vogue now. What you just referenced is one of those areas where I think, some of those conservative views on how to regulate terrestrial radio may impact the podcast world.
Yeah, they would definitely lump that in.
Yeah,
it's happening.
It's already happening. You're seeing it?
No, but somebody put me onto a good little gem that I'll share with you guys too. I can't take credit for it, but if you notice, Google and I think both Apple are either have rolled out or starting to roll out transcription services, right? Mm-hmm. And the idea is, at least the way Google's pitching it is, this will be great for searchability, because if you put in a podcast and you search the name right now, it's not necessarily going to be in the top tier stuff that comes up. But when we have the entire content transcribed, it's going to rise right to the top. And, let's say somebody's on Breakfast Club and, you type in Meek Mill Breakfast Club, right? And that'll come up to the top instead of being 20 rows down. That sounds great. What the person said to me is, don't be surprised if they also start to use this on the advertising side to search for certain words that are said in podcasts, right? So they could have a filter of 100 words that they don't want to be associated with or that are red flags. And they stick that right in there. Now you got a big problem on your hands if you're making that sort of content. And I'm absolutely making that sort of content. So that's something I've got an eye on.
It could go further than just advertisers using it against you.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean,
that's limitless what they could potentially do with that.
I mean, we've been fortunate in podcasting to kind of be able to say what you want for a long time without a lot of, it being under a microscope. But, it's a double-edged sword. When you want money, and everybody in podcasts, we want money. Mm-hmm. Well, when the money comes, it comes with some strings attached, and I think that's what everyone's going to start to realize in the next couple of years.
Mm. Hey, I'm assuming, Chris, that your job is pretty much 24 hours if you let it be. How do you strike a balance with, spending time with your family and your kids versus work? I know, in past episodes, I know E especially has been just trying to figure that one out. He's got a 7-month-old, so he's kind of in the thick of it right now.
Yeah, going through it.
Yeah.
Drink Champs doesn't help.
I mean, yeah, no, for sure. And that early age, frankly, for me was like the biggest struggle when they were that young, just because of the sleep thing. And just everything's a chore, to me at least. I know some people really enjoy them that little. I definitely have enjoyed it more the older they get, and you can kind of like relate to them a little bit more, as people, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's a struggle. Yeah, like definitely my job is it's 25 hours a day if I let it be. And then on top of that, I got Lyme's disease. So like sometimes the days themselves are tough. Like I can have days where I'm really fatigued or tired or any number of stuff. So I kind of have to discipline myself to turn it off. But frankly, like I enjoy being with my kids. Like I'd rather hang out with my kids than, go out to a club for sure or go to some industry event. So I think I'm fortunate just in the sense that, when I'm with my kids, that's how I recharge. That's what I kind of get energy from. So I think I've done pretty good on that kind of, occasionally my wife will say, for instance, you brought up Brilliant Idiots. Like, I can't tell you how many times she's been like, who the fuck is calling you? We tell Andrew Schultz to go get a fucking life and leave you alone. Like, why do you have to respond to 30 emails from him on a Sunday night or a Friday night? And I'm like, well, that's the job. That's Schultz. But, and that is the job. So it's always going to be there. And it's always going to be something that you can't necessarily get away from. But for me, I think a bigger challenge than actually working is I got to learn how to get off social media. Like if there's one thing I feel guilty about with my kids, it's that just around the house, like they constantly catch me on Twitter or Facebook and stuff like that. They even know it's too much. Like, Dad, get off Twitter, and I'm like, I know. So that's the struggle for me.
Are you on social media more for work or your own personal, knowledge seeking?
That's what I tell them.
I think it's hard to even find the difference sometimes.
Nah, because I mean, you could be debating with people or whatever,
Nah, I don't. I'm just watching. I rarely ever post anything.
Market research.
So I tell them. Exactly. So that's what I try to tell my kids. I'm like, you can be on social media too if you're making money from it. But they even know I'm posting it. I got a problem.
I mean, for me, so this is mainly digital. For me, social media is like the bane of my existence because I have a couple podcasts that I'm on now, and I find myself. I mean, that's my grassroots marketing, mediums, and it's like in order for you to utilize them to the fullest potential, you have to be on them every day, posting, commenting, talking, whatever. And bro, it is.
That's how it starts, Manny.
It's a fucking shit show, man.
It's a shit show, and part of me is like, there's no way I could be doing my job well if I didn't know what's happening because, it's culture, right? Like, all our shows deal with the culture, and I probably I'm out of touch as it is. I'm about to turn 48, so I'm already, probably way past where I should be, and if I feel like if I just completely shut it off, but then again, does it really matter? I don't know. I think there's going to be a big pushback against social media in the next 5 to 10 years. I think people are going to realize it's just making people miserable.
Yeah, for
all
sure.
the time.
And it's balance, man.
You need some balance. So, for me, I spend a lot of time with my kids. I don't have any, regret or guilt about that at all. But I do feel like I could be getting more out of my time by spending less time, on my phone.
You said something interesting a few minutes ago that you enjoy this time now that the age that your kids are currently, as opposed to those early infant years. And you often don't hear a lot of people kind of fess up to that? I know you said your girl got mad at you
Right.
a couple episodes ago because you're just saying in terms of when a kid is first born.
Oh yeah, when she was born, yeah.
Yeah, and then when they're infants, it's especially if you're just not used to being around babies.
You're just trying to keep this human alive at first.
You just don't really know what the hell is going on, or you don't feel like yourself, and you often hear the stories of this instant love connection when you hold the baby the first time.
Yeah,
and
like I didn't cry. My girl's like, you didn't cry.
I think for a lot of guys, it's like you're scared. You're like, oh shit, there's no okay, what do we what do I do now, right? And then when they start to get older, then you start to see the personality, and you start to
exactly.
have that connection and be feel like you're communicating a bit. So I think that's something that we as fathers often don't really talk about too much. I think maybe because we don't want anyone to get mad at us about it.
Well, it's like when my eldest daughter was born, I held her. I was like the first person I was in the room. I was the first person to hold her, and I definitely felt that rush of emotion, and I'm going to protect you and all that. And then we took her home, and she was colicky, and there was like a month and a half stretch where she basically cried the entire time. And I can remember in the hospital, they make you watch a video about shaken baby syndrome, right?
Oh, yeah.
Don't do this. And I remember watching the video saying, why are they wasting my time with this shit? Can you imagine hurting this kid? Can you imagine shaking this beautiful kid? And let me tell you, man, when my daughter was colicky, I was mad at her. Like I wanted to fuck her up. Like, and I gotta be honest. Like, I was like, that's why they show you the video, because sleep deprivation is real. And when you're 3-4 weeks into that, you start to lose it a little bit.
Like
and I'm like, yeah. And then it's over. And then one day they sleep and you kind of forget that it ever happened. But when you're in the thick of that, like you start to lose it a little bit. And I'm like, that's why they showed you the video, because
Damn, I didn't get that.
I'm like, they're making this for somebody else. I could never snap like that. Well, guess what? When I was in the thick of it, I could have snapped. For sure.
No, I felt it too. My wife went.
You mentioned it, Kay.
Yeah, she went back to work and had to go overseas trip, and it was like she was 5 or 6 months old or something, and he was breastfeeding, and so that was a whole issue in itself. And when he was waking up in the middle of the night, and I'm trying to feed him, and he's just not happy. He's just pissed, and and in turn I get pissed, and I was just really mad. You know what I mean? And then the next day I felt like shit, because I'm like, damn, man, it's just a baby. Like, he's missing his mom, and I'm a fucking asshole for getting so upset. But
I remember
when you're
I screamed at my daughter, like the top of my lungs, like, fuck, And then the second I did, I was like, what? She's like 3 months old. What am I a maniac? But that's what happened.
Well, my daughter's teething now, so it's like I feel like a second wind of that is happening.
Yo, I can't wait to see your daughter.
Put a little whiskey on the gums. That'll do it.
For sure.
So I tried that with my daughter.
Well, they put rum on my what is it, the tete? That's what we say in Spanish. What do you call it in English?
The binky?
The fucking bottle part, the part you suck on.
The nipple of the
nipple.
Yeah, the nipple. They my mom claimed that they would dip it in rum. Hence drink champs.
Right, there you go. Bred early on. Chris, how involved was your dad in your growing up?
Super involved.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was really fortunate. I had if anything, my parents, sometimes I had to tell them to kind of like give me a little space to breathe. But my father was very, very involved. He, I can remember, I was telling my kids about this the other day, and they're rolling their eyes, but every night at dinner, we would sit down, we would have a family dinner every night. And then he would say to my sister and I, okay, so what have you done today in the Morrow pursuit of excellence? And then we would have to, come up with something that we've done, even if we hadn't pursued excellence that much. But, that was the routine every night. And, over time that sinks in and it motivates you. And, my father's like an extremely hard worker. He's a He's a much harder worker than I am. And, a lot of that bled through, and, I credit him, for whatever success I've been able to achieve. It definitely comes from that ethic that I got from him.
Does that carry on? Do you guys have a tradition that's similar? I mean, it might not be seeking what was it again? The pursuit of moral
what have
excellence?
you done today in the moral pursuit of excellence?
Right.
Nothing like that in our house. No, we don't, I think I'm a little more selfish than my father was. I'm into my career. My wife is into her career. We come home, 7:00 every night, and we're kind of burnt, and we're just trying to get the kids to bed. I think I'm pretty lucky that both of my kids are pretty smart and well-adjusted. We just had our parent-teacher conferences, and they're like, these kids are amazing, just doing what you're doing. I was like, to be honest, we're not doing anything. I don't even, every couple of days I'm like, you guys have homework or anything? And they're like, yeah, we did it. So it's completely hands-off, whereas with my parents, they were just on me every step of the way, which as I got older, it turned into like a little bit more of a problem. But it's probably, my wife's family, they were really hands off because they were immigrants. They didn't really understand, the system probably that much. So, and she did fine. So they were just kind of like, keep doing what you're doing. And I think that's kind of what we're doing with our kids.
So damn, I can relate a little bit. My 11-year-old, and actually she was doing that today. She gets home from school and immediately she jumps onto our dining table. She starts doing her homework, and we're kind of none the wiser. We just kind of see this, figment of our imagination just zip through, sit down, do her thing, and then before you know it, she has basketball practice or something, and we're kind of doing the 100-yard dash to try to get her to whatever else she's doing. You mentioned you guys don't have a television. Is that correct?
They don't have cable.
Well,
cable.
Yeah, we don't have cable. We have laptops, and I have a Apple TV. That we'll watch a little bit here and there. But my kids are readers, man. Like, there's just a lot of reading going on in our house. Not much screen time.
So screen time isn't necessarily an issue for you and your girls.
Nah, we really don't stress it. On the weekends, like my wife and I tend to sleep pretty late because we can now, so we'll wake up maybe around 10.
The hell is that like?
Yeah.
Shit.
It must be nice.
Fuck, Chris.
That's the dream, right? That's what you're fighting for. You got to get there. You'll get there. But and my sense is that they've both been on the computer since they woke up around like 7 or 8. But I'm just like, whatever. I don't care. And then the rest of the week, they're really not on it that much. My youngest daughter is getting really into the NBA through me. So if there's a Sixers game on, we'll watch a Sixers game together. That's about it, truthfully.
That's dope.
Fantasizing about that 10 a.m. late sleep, man.
Yeah, that's fucked up. You can't do that shit, Chris. We got little kids. They're still waking up at 6 in the fucking morning.
Hey man, I remember those days. This is what, like I said, this is what you're fighting for. You just got to keep pushing, and when do you get there? You get there maybe when
there
you're
is
like
hope.
8. Yeah, there is hope.
Right.
There's light at the end of the tunnel.
I got 6 years before I can even look at that shit.
It'll go fast.
Be all right. You'll be all right.
So
on that note,
yeah. I was just gonna say, beyond loudspeakers, you're also an accomplished author, and a writer by trade. What are you doing much of that today, or is it all kind of 100% loudspeakers?
I actually worked with Charlemagne on his latest book, Shook One.
Right.
So I kind of told myself that was it in terms of the writing thing, unless something pops up where it just makes sense and I want to do it. But I pretty much stopped pursuing that once loudspeakers got rolling. So, if something comes my way and I just feel like it makes sense, and it's somebody probably that I already have a relationship with, like with him, I can give it a shot. But that's a tough job. it's a lot to do that and podcasting, raising family, and then like I said with the Limes, like my energy's just not at the place where I can feel like I can just power through stuff anymore. So I kind of told myself after this one, that's it. We'll see if that's true or not, but that's the plan right now.
And one last question, Chris. Kind of, what's life like at Loudspeakers now after Combat Jack's passing? I know you guys have pressed on and still doing the mission. What's the vibe? What's the feeling?
It's tough. I mean, I think we're all kind of like in a state of denial, to be honest with you. And I think it's a week and a half from now will be, I think, exactly a year since he passed. Just because it happened so fast, it wasn't one of these situations where you're sick for a couple of years. It just kind of spiraled really quickly. So, we're doing our thing. We're still moving. We're working on some stuff to honor him and try to keep his name alive and his legacy alive. It is tough. I think about him a lot every day, especially his family. We're talking about families now and kids, and I think that's been the toughest part of it for me, just knowing his kids. I mean, his daughter is the same age as my eldest daughter. They used to play together. She's a really sweet kid, really bright kid, and I just can't really imagine what it's been like for her and what it's going to be like for her. So I think that's the tough part. But you got to keep on hustling. You got to keep on, doing what got you to this place. And I think it's like I said. I think what we just have to do is really work to cement his legacy, because I know personally I'm not someone who's particularly comfortable waving the flag or calling attention to myself. But one of the things I've been thinking about is I kind of have to do it for Reggie now, because he can't do it for himself.
All right.
And I saw a tweet the other day that made me happy. Somebody tweeted, "Yo, I love that the Button podcast is doing 2+ hours for the culture. No one's done that before. Salutes." And I just saw him tweet back #combat. And I was like, all right, to me, that's how it's supposed to work. The people who know, and they talk about it. I don't want to get into a situation where it feels because people hit me all the time, what about this and what about that? We don't have to run around saying, well, Combat did this first. The people have been around, and Combat wasn't first. People have been doing a version of this before Loudspeakers, and it's going to keep growing and keep moving. So I think it's a fine line where you honor what Reggie accomplished and then try to keep growing with the culture as it progresses.
Also,
Dope.
Boom. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, man. Thanks so much.
Hey, man.
appreciate it, man.
These are the conversations I've been having in my mind all the time. So it's I appreciate having a chance to actually have some other fathers, and I think you guys are onto something.
Thanks.
It's helpful for us, man. It's therapy.
Yeah, we were doing this without recording it, so imagine.
That's what it is.
That means a lot from the Podfather, so thank you.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right, good talking to you guys.
All right,
Take it
man.
easy,
Later.
man.
Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click the bell.